I got this. It says you'll reach the highest point in your business. So, and good things coming soon.
Tell me how you spend your day without me, without Abdu, without Ibrahim, I think. So how it is, good or bad?
What is going on, pimps and players? I'm in Agadir. I've been here for almost a month, and I wanted to share something with you guys. Now, last year, or exactly around this time, so exactly a year from today, I was working at a restaurant in a seaside town in Bulgaria called Lozhenets. At this restaurant, I would be doing a lot of odd jobs, ranging from being a security guard to cleaning dishes to helping cook the food, the fish, stuff like this, because the shop mainly sold fish. I remember just working this job and thinking like, when I got outside, like, man, why can't I be the people who are coming to the restaurant and enjoying their food, enjoying the beauty all around, you know, the ocean, the parks. Like, I want to be in that position. And so I thought, you know, next year I'm gonna be the one that's going to all these places. So I started planning this out of my head all from last year. And when I was working at this restaurant, I was working for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week with no breaks at all. And I worked there for a month during the summer, and it was a very difficult time in my life, as you can imagine, for a 17-year-old. And it's a lot to put on a person like that, you know. I'm very happy that I went through that experience, but it really introduced me to the tedium of work, as it was my first job I had ever worked. I remember after summer had finished, I started reading Charles Bukowski. And the first book that I read of Charles Bukowski's is Ham on Rye, the first book in the Henry Chinaski series. It really struck a chord with me, especially I really enjoyed it, just about a young man. But I think afterwards, when I read Factotum and Post Office, that resonated even more with me at the time with the work that I was working, the steps in my life that I was going through. Because in Factotum and in Post Office, it's about a man who is living day by day. He's struggling to live. You know, he's working a job after job just to be able to stay above the water, so to speak, to be able to eat, and more importantly, for Henry Chinaski in the book, to be able to drink alcohol. And really, there was a quote that stood out to me in, I think, Post Office, or one of the books in the Henry Chinaski series, where he says, "I was terrified by just how much it took for a man to simply survive in this world." And it really struck me as well, you know, it made me think about the situation, because at that time, he wasn't summer anymore, and I was working a job at Domino's Pizza, making pizzas, and I did not enjoy it. It was terrible. It was mind-numbing, you know. It was really bad. I ended up quitting that job, and exactly at the same time, reading through Charles Bukowski and his works, it really opened my eyes and made me think about a lot of what he's saying as a man who's gone through the strokes of life and experienced much more than I have, and is writing about these things from experience. I think as the years have gone by, men have slowly become less and less independent. If you think back 100 years ago, for example, 18, a man really was an adult. He could have gone out to get married. He would have started full-time work in a lot of cases, and he could actually support a family. You know, he could support himself, and he had experienced a lot more. He had a much more in-depth idea and understanding of what the real world entails. But I think nowadays with young people, they're trying to postpone the entry into adulthood, and I think this is incredibly common everywhere. I mean, I think university is much less a tool for enriching yourself and understanding a field and earning a diploma so you can specialize in a job. I think it's a lot more just extending your childhood and extending your period where you are allowed to have mishaps. I mean, think about it. Like, if you're a 20-year-old and you don't go to university and you just mess around, drink alcohol, fuck girls, you're a leech, you know? Like, people won't hesitate to call you out for it and be like, what are you doing, man? But hey, if you're a college student, you're doing the exact same thing, you know, university student, it's fine, because that's the uni lifestyle, you know? When you get out of university, or whatever age it may be, you know, like 21, 22, 23, 24, however old you are, you a lot of the time, these people have no real world experience. And I think that's exactly what I so thoroughly understood from the Henry Chinaski series, is the fact that the tedium of everyday work, and how the average person actually lives their life day by day, especially if you are one of those people that are willing to put the effort. Because the truth is, one of my good friends, Dan, he told me, he says, it's not about how hard you work, it's about how smart you work. A man who's working a manual labor job, do you really think he's working less hard than someone like, say, Mark Zuckerberg or something. No, it's not. You know, he might be even working harder. He's lifting all these boxes. He's doing all this hard work, but it's about how much value you provide to people. And I think if when you're a young person, you don't figure out a way how to provide value to other people, how to be a useful component of society, and go about reaching that path. It may be through a university degree. That's what the most common way was before, but even just going online, you can learn so many things online. Then you eventually have to pay for that in some other aspect, you know, because if you're working hard, manual labor, you're working hard, that's for damn sure, you know, just you're using your body, it's like selling yourself, you know, you're selling your life vitality in a way. And like in post office, the feeling that Henry Chinaski has, having to work this job day after day, and just he can't even function, his head barely works, you know, like even to make love, to drink alcohol, that drinking is his only respite. It can take him to another place, at least temporarily. It can make him forget about all this turmoil that surrounds his life. And I can really understand this feeling, having worked the job during the summer, which was constantly not only a physical battle, but a mental one. And I'll probably make a video on that as well, the whole restaurant experience, if you guys are interested, me working at the restaurant, because there was a whole lot of shenanigans that went on at this place, and it was far from typical in any way. Besides the point, I'm saying, I think a lot of people, especially in developed countries, don't realize the reality of life, the fact that you're gonna have to put in the hard work eventually. And, you know, if you put it in now or later, you know, it's still going to be there. It just depends on, do you want to work with your body or use your mind? Because absolutely, we need people to complete certain jobs, and that's true. And if you have a passion for working that job, if you want to work in a restaurant and cook, that's great. But the reality is, most people will seldom actually fulfill their passion. They won't fulfill the thing that they can provide value in the most, because they simply can't find it, because there's so many distractions around them. Their head is so cloudy that they don't even know like what's going on around them. You know, they don't have time to sit down and think, hold on, where am I? Where am I heading? Especially in the 21st century, it's exponentially more difficult than any time before in history. And that is something that is a frightening prospect for future generations, even the current generations. If you're somebody who has experience working manual labor jobs for long hours and stuff like this, then I would certainly recommend reading some of Charles Bukowski's work, because I think his books, the most interesting thing about them is they are profoundly human. He talks about things that almost everybody will experience, really. His personal romantic relationships with women, his struggles with alcohol, struggles with work, you know, and juggling everything and managing to even live life, struggles with his family. With the pure normality of his situation, he manages to make it philosophical, because it makes you wonder, like, where is this going? You know, like, what is the point of this? Who is he helping by working at this post office? Realistically, you know, it's not his passion, and it's slowly draining the life out of him. And you know, it's what's draining the life out of him more, the alcohol or the job, you know, the countless long hours. Just like another book by I think John Williams, Stoner, a life of an ordinary man, you know, during the 20s, the 30s, it becomes profoundly philosophical just by virtue of when all the sound is dissipated. You think like, well, what is there now? You know, like, what is going on? I think we really need to make it more common as a society to have this moment where you just sit back and think like, hey, where am I going? Where am I headed? What do I want to do? Because if you don't, you're going to end up just like Henry Chinaski or Stoner in their respective situations, where you'll reach a point in your life and you're wondering, how did I get here? I don't want to be here. It reminds me of a quote that Andrei Tarkovsky said, which I'll end on this note. Young people nowadays, they constantly want to be surrounded by other people, to fill the void, to talk to people. But he said, it's very important to learn to be comfortable in your own presence, because that's who you're going to be spending the most time with. And if you don't learn to be comfortable with yourself, it's a big chance it will cause problems for you later in life.